Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It is time to go through some changelogs when it comes to War Thunder. They've released 2 over the last few days, and they actually have some pretty cool stuff in them. Unfortunately for War Thunder, this has been a pretty depressing week so far, so I thought we would have a look at some positive stuff until we have a look at the negative stuff once again. So, with these updates, there are a bunch of bug fixes, and also some stuff which was changed to help people chat more. Obviously, if you don't know, over the last few years, there's been a lot of rules imposed on the chat in War Thunder because of real-world events, and also because of other things. Now, it seems like that's changing, so we're going back to normalcy, and people can be slightly trusted again. So, let's get started, and let's see what this is about. First of all, we have update 2.43.0.86. This mainly focused on aircraft changes, but there was also a bunch of other stuff as well. There was a bug that caused the sight in the cockpit to display incorrectly and move when the player's camera moved in aircraft with gyro sights that were turned off, and that has been fixed. So obviously that's quite a big issue, especially for simulator players. There was also a bug where a line from the missile's launch zone was sometimes displayed in another battle on another aircraft, and that has been fixed too. I've actually seen that before, but it's more been between spawns. There was a time for some reason where when you spawned in a plane, you still had kind of like the hotbar at the bottom from a tank. I don't know what was going on with that, but it was very odd. But I'm glad that they've fixed this part. There was also a bug where collisions with friendly AI aircraft would, in most cases, not result in damage to the player's aircraft, and that's been fixed, so you could basically just like go through them, which is a little bit odd. There was also a bug where opening the bomb bay and then selecting bombs on external hardpoints would cause the bomb bay to close and then not be possible to open until the bombs in the bomb bay were selected or until the external hardpoint selector was disabled, and that has been fixed. That's such a weird bug, but also I feel like there's not really going to be a lot of times where you actually have that issue, which is a bit odd. Then you have a bug where helicopter blades could deflect bombs without taking damage. That's been fixed. And also a bug where the bombs could fly through helicopters without causing damage has been fixed. And yeah, this was a issue that was pointed out earlier in the week. Basically, people were trying to donk helicopters with guided bombs because, of course, trying to deal with some of the high-tier helicopters head-on is just a death sentence. Like, if you try to deal with a K-50 or 52, those Vickers have proximity head on them, so you can just die to them if you're trying to gun them down, or if they're trying to gun you down. And then also, at the same time, there's a lot of very, very aggressive kind of all-aspect IR missiles that the helicopters have. So people were like, okay, I'll just hit them with guided bombs. And they were just going straight through and not doing anything. So obviously, that wasn't working. There was also a bug where the voice announcer announced the incorrect launch direction and instead reported the direction of the previously fired missile that has been fired, which is kind of funny. So that's now fixed as well. So they straight up just give you the completely wrong information, which is, of course, a bit rough. You also have the actual picture for this update, 2.43.0.86. I wanted to point it out because I've never actually looked at it before, but you have like a Halifax bomber that has a Polish insignia on it, and then there are just people just falling from the sky. So I'm guessing those were from a Halifax that exploded. But yeah, it's just kind of weird to look at this picture with people just flopping all over the place. Very odd indeed, but nice to see some Polish representation. For ground vehicles, there was a bug where the crew would voice a notification about a missed shot due to the discharging Sabo flying past the target, even though the armor-piercing part of the APF-SDS shell hit the target, and that has been fixed. Oh, so you would get hit, and then your crew would be like, sorry, they missed, but you'd obviously be crippled. Yeah, not great. There was also a bug where it was possible to attach the tow cable to an enemy vehicle that was still alive after they had respawned for the second time, and that has been fixed, so that's kind of nice. And then for naval vessels, just a simple one. There was a bug where the last 2 gun indicators did not show the reload time, and that has been fixed too. The locations as well, a few of them have changed, which is quite nice. Water displays near the shores have been improved, making the boundary between calm and turbulent currents less noticeable. So it will be a bit easier to tell or not tell where things are. The Green Mountains Gulf and Palau Islands, these coastal-only missions have been removed from the rotation in all game modes. This has been done due to the large distance between the spawn points and taking 4 minutes on average to make it to the first capture point. We plan to change and reintroduce them in the future. So they're going to make them a bit smaller, which is fine. There's a lot of coastal maps which are just too big, and they've been too big for a long time. So these changes I don't really have too much of an issue with. I think it would be better if they were a bit smaller and therefore a little bit easier to traverse. In the other category, there was a bug where market camouflages might have not been displayed to other players even if the show content in the battle setting was selected as any in these settings, and that's been fixed. So therefore you can see everything. The only issue I have with the market camos is the fact that your game has to download so many of them all the time, and it can be a big stress on the internet, and also data caps if people have them, but also just in general, there's just so much downloading that has to go on when it comes to War Thunder every time that you load up the game, and that just kind of sucks. Like, if you actually have a look at the amount that you use, it's just pretty crazy. There's also another update. This was 2.43.0.87, and that came out today. You have the TU2Ss, the Soviet one and the Chinese one, and then also the TU2S-59. The M44 bombs have been replaced with the M43 with more explosives. I don't think the TU2s needed a buff. They're all pretty good, especially in ground realistic. They're incredibly powerful if you decide to run them. You basically get 3 guaranteed kills with the bomb drops, and then also some pretty good guns, and also pretty good defensive. The A7K, the weight of the secondary weapons, has been increased. It's not really going to make a difference. That thing's at a BR that's making it completely worthless, at least in air, and in ground there's a lot better options, unfortunately. The Mirage 2005F was a bug where the HMD wasn't being displayed when the pilot's head was turned away from the sights at small angles, and that's been fixed, even though it should have the HMD, so that's quite nice. Ooh, the FAD and the FAEFN, the EEGS, has been added, which is the unsynchronized shooting. That's kind of cool. We'll have to see how that affects those vehicles. The FAD is pretty fun. I did enjoy spading it quite a lot. It was very enjoyable. The FN, I haven't played yet, and the reason is because it doesn't have countermeasures, and I don't want to play a vehicle at that BR without countermeasures. I've played enough of them around that BR without countermeasures, and they are very, very boring and annoying to play. The Matra R550 Magic 2, the engine operating time and total thrust has been clarified. Operating time has been reduced from 2.2 to 2. Total thrust has been increased from 55,000 to 55,900. So technically, it should be, faster again? I feel like the Magics have been getting a lot of buffs recently. So yeah, they should be flying faster through the air, but also at the same time, the operating time has been reduced. So we'll have to see how that affects it. For ground vehicles, the MIM-146 gets 2 changes. The burn time has been changed from 2 to 3.17 seconds while maintaining total thrust impulse, and also the missile autopilot has been updated. Trajectory sway has been reduced, and rocket dynamics have been updated. So it should just be a lot better in terms of the actual vehicle itself and the missile itself. It should be a lot more precise and also be able to go a lot further. The naval vessels, the Dulio, the thickness of the aft casemate armor belt has been increased from 20 to 70 millimeters. The Nuremberg, there was a display of main caliber ammunition and the ship's X-ray has been fixed. The Spey, elevation angles of the 40mm both as 90 mounts have been reduced to 85, so that still should be fine. The bug where on some vehicles it was possible to buy and accordingly take into battle fewer shells than were in the ammunition, has been fixed. That's kind of funny. And for playability reasons, the following naval weapons have been stabilized. Wow. Okay. The Plamia 30mm automatic grenade launcher, 57mm Type 97 Mod 37 gun, 75mm anti-aircraft Type 88, 76 F-34 gun, and 85 ZIS S-53 gun. So all of these are either Soviet or Japanese. See, for playability reasons, isn't that interesting? Wow, we're doing ahistorical changes. Wait, we're doing ahistorical changes for playability reasons. But we're also removing the R2I2s because they're ahistorical. Oh, I see how it is. I see how it is. Naval is just a completely different area of the game. They get very different things. You know how you could also fix this issue without making it fake, by the way? You could just reduce the amount of sway that the water has. You could just reduce the amount of ridiculous waves that are in the game, making vehicles like this completely unusable. But no, you have to introduce fake changes. Unlike the R2Y2, that has to go, right? That has to be destroyed. But this is fine. It's okay. Because it's naval. Nobody seems to care that it keeps happening in naval. For the interface, there was a bug where the hit analysis could show shells that were not in the feed and has been fixed. And also, the last one is the delay for sending messages to the in-game chat has been reduced. For unique messages, the delay is 2 seconds. For repeating messages, the delay is 5 seconds. So now you can chat a little bit easier compared to before, which I believe it was 10 seconds across the board. I've said this many times. I've never seen anything useful in the chat. When it comes to War Thunder, all I see is just people at the start of their realistic battles basically being bored, so they just type weird stuff in the chat as usual, and then also try and like rile people up. But I've never actually seen anything useful in it, apart from maybe 0.1% of interactions when they're like, hey, there's a person over here, or this person is damaged. But now that we have a much better chat wheel, none of these things are really needed, apart from maybe I've damaged the enemy here, because of course that would be useful. But generally, yeah, I feel like I've been very much gaslit when it comes to the chat and its usefulness in War Thunder, and people using it as a social platform. I find that very odd, since we have so many others at the moment which are just much better functionally in general. But who knows? I suppose it's nice that people can chat more, but I just don't understand the usefulness of it. Maybe I'm just old, who knows. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.